CO, hello, and welcome to Double Feature Movie Club. This is our 28th episode, and we're talking two Nicholas Winding Refn movies, Drive and The Neon Demon. This week, we are joined by, as always, Diane, and for the first time, we have Abby Hoover. How are you doing, Abby?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself at all to the audience?
My name's Abby. I am a small-time filmmaker. I primarily focus on documentaries. And Cade and I knew each other in elementary school.
Yes, and we've kept up in
Yeah,
various
we
ways.
met in elementary school is what I should say.
Yeah, exactly. And Abby does some really great work, and particularly I really liked your capstone that you did. That was really powerful and moving.
Thank you.
No problem. And Diane, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
I think everybody knows who I am. I'm the cranky old chick.
Oh, okay, great. This is the top of the show, Abby. I don't know if you've ever caught our show, but this is before we jump into the movies, where we just kind of catch up on our lives, if we've seen anything or watching anything. This is our moment to talk about it, and at times we use it to delay the inevitable if it's particularly bad movies or movies that we don't have a lot to say about. We talk up here a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit up here. Do you think so, Diane?
Yeah, I think we should. I'm going to tell you, I watched a great movie the other night on Disney
Oh, okay.
called Spirited. You
Oh.
will love it, Cade. It's a musical.
Yeah, I've honestly wanted to see it. Yeah.
It's a very imaginative takeoff on the Scrooge story
Mm-hmm.
that we've all heard and seen before. And I am not a huge Will Ferrell fan, but
Mm-hmm.
he was really good in this.
Oh, good.
And he and Ryan Reynolds, it's surprising. It's the first movie they've ever made together, and they just clicked. I mean, their chemistry was amazing, and it is hilarious. It has lots of wonderful gags in it, and not too immature, because I can't. That's the thing that gets me about Will Ferrell. Sometimes he can be really juvenile, but in this he's not, and it's really really good. And I recommend it highly. Spirited. There you go. There's Ava.
Yeah.
She recommended it. She had watched part of it, and then she had said, you really ought to watch this. I think you'll love it. And so we watched it together, and it was amazing.
Mm.
It's the music is all written by the guys who did La La Land. So
Oh.
it's kind of uplifting musical
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. And the choreography and dance scenes were incredible. I don't know, Ava, if that was the same choreographers that did La La Land, but they have like four separate scenes that were as big as the opening of La La Land.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you ever saw the opening, of that, but the choreography
Yeah.
in that is amazing. And this was it was beyond that. So yeah, it was pretty incredible. And it had a closing scene. After the credits roll, you actually have an entire song and a choreography of an amazing dance routine in black and white. It was incredible. It was like almost like a throwback to the wonderful musicals of yesteryear before even I was born.
And it's on Apple, right? Isn't that what it's on?
Did I say Disney?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think it is on Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, first
No,
time.
first time.
Wow.
Wow. That's incredible.
Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah, they were amazing. Yeah. And Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds are not singers or dancers
Mm-hmm.
at all. And in interviews with them, they talked about the challenge of taking this on and being really out of their comfort zone. And they did a great job, you know. Yeah, they said Apple. So
Perfect.
yeah, that's I recommend it highly for if you want to get your spirit on for the holiday season.
Yeah, I think that's. I have wanted to watch it, so I will. I will watch that. Are you
Yeah.
watching anything, Abby? That's you want to talk about?
So I actually currently I'm watching the TV show Paper Girls. It's based off a graphic novel. It's on Amazon,
Oh, okay.
I had to get an Amazon subscription to watch Neon Demon. And so I thought I'll watch this too because I read the graphic novels and they were really good. It unfortunately isn't renewed for a second season, so I'm trying not to set myself up to be disappointed. But it's really good. I also just watched a documentary about the band Kiss. I don't remember what streaming service it was on. But it was really interesting. I actually used to be terrified of Kiss. My dad used to have a VHS.
I am still terrified of Kiss.
Yeah.
Yes, I am still terrified of Kiss.
But it was really interesting, like a history of the band. So it was a really interesting documentary. Yeah.
We get questions all the time about Kiss at our trivia. So whoever puts together our trivia questions is a big Kiss fan, and we failed them every time. So this might be
Almost
a good.
every time.
Yeah, I am sure I could tell you all about them now.
Yeah.
Well, it might be worth watching because I mean, all of my basketball knowledge is based on watching The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary.
And it came in handy.
It's came in handy. I know who Scottie Pippen is.
Exactly. I probably couldn't have named a member of Kiss, but I can now.
Yeah. I went to see 3 movies in the theater this week because I am trying to, this weekend, because I'm trying to get platinum status on my Cinemark thing. That's not important. But that's what I have to have enough before the end of the year. So, and there were 3 movies I wanted to see. So I saw Black Panther because I missed that last week. And then I saw The Menu. I was very excited for that.
Oh yeah.
And then the last one I watched was She Said, the Harvey Weinstein journalism movie and all that.
Okay, so first off, Wakanda Forever. Jennifer and I went to see it Thursday night, and I loved it. I thought they did an excellent job of saying goodbye to the first Black Panther, Chadwick, and the movie could have just been about that, and I would have been happy. At the same time, I was thrilled that they brought in the Mayans. Yeah. Now that you've been to their capital, Cade, did you enjoy that portion of it?
Yeah, no, that was really cool and everything. I must say I do like the first Black Panther more. I thought this probably had the better third act than that's where it fell apart, the last Black Panther. I found it to be a little meandering at times. I mean the acting was just amazing in this movie, and cinematography was beautiful, and it was so much better than like just them being on green screen, which is what a lot of these have been. It was beautifully directed, beautifully acted. I mean, the dialogue was fine. They did a good job. Just the story just didn't seem to click, I didn't think, as well, or it seemed like they were rushed with the passing of Chadwick to like include that and to include the parts that they had to include from the original draft, which was obviously the Namor stuff, and then they had to set up 17 movies and sequels and Disney Plus shows and like it's just like it
had a lot to do in this movie, and that was the one thing. Yeah, I agree with you. It was too much.
It was too much, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, if it was just unfocused, I think was the sort of way that if it focused on just one or two of those things, that I felt like it could have been a little bit better. But Angela Bassett, that was my number one complaint with the last movie, was that they didn't use enough Angela Bassett. They learned that lesson. They put a lot on Angela Bassett's shoulders, and she delivered. She was amazing in this movie. Yeah.
See, that I disagree with you a little bit in the sense that I think they were focused on the individual storylines. It's where they had to bring them together. That I think that's where it lost its traction. The plot line with Lizzie Chadwick and that whole piece of it, the grief from that. Angela Bassett is probably the world's greatest actress, I think. But anyway, that was really focused. I think the Mayan portion of it, that piece of it was really focused. But I think where they had to bring all those together, they didn't weave well.
It seemed I would agree with all that. I think you're right about that. It would seem like that it was because they were forced to do a lot of, like, it was different drafts of different things of like they wanted to do this one thing that was a tribute, and they still had to, like I said, have this the story was obviously, you could tell what the original story was. The original story was Wakanda v what their whatever their version of Atlantis was, whatever they called it. Timor, whatever the thing was, whatever it was called. That in like sort of a T'Challa v Namor, and sort of to showcase their differences in being leaders. You could tell that that's what the movie was originally supposed to be, and that was a little bit more clear. But when it had to be a tribute, and had to be that, and it had to set up Riri Williams for her Ironheart show, and had to set up Julia Louis-Dreyfus and as a villain going forward, a lot of people complained about that, but I was like, I'm 100% on board with Julia Louis-Dreyfus being in every Marvel show and movie.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Even if she only has one scene, I'm good with that.
I'm okay with her being 50% of all movies going forward. That's how much I'm on board with it. I think that it just should be her with her. Like, I love how that was a great reveal. This is not a mild spoiler, but her and Everett Ross are, which is Martin Freeman's character. They were their exes, their ex-spouses, they're a divorced couple, which was fun. That was a fun thing to learn. That's
my favorite scene, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Anyways, but I don't know. To me, I'm going to forget about most of this movie in a month's time. So it's already leaving my brain, because The Menu, I cannot recommend enough. It's one of my favorite movies of this past year. Go see The Menu in theaters. It was one of my favorite theater experiences with an audience, of like people slowly realizing that this is like a comedy, like, because it's a very, very, very dark comedy, and people like nervous to laugh at things, and then for them to eventually like learn to laugh at it. It was really, really a really great experience. Highly recommend. Okay,
don't tell me a whole lot about it, because Jennifer and I are going to go see that this week.
Good. I won't. I was done with what I said.
Don't say anymore.
Go see it.
And I just read a review about She Said, and it really was more along the lines with why people weren't flocking to the movie theaters to see it. Versus an actual review of the movie. The review of the movie was really good. I mean, I think it's gotten excellent reviews. It's just that, will people go to the theater to see a movie like that or not?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I went in, it was the first time ever that I've been carded for a film. That they were like, "Oh, can I see your ID?" or whatever, and I'm like, "Is a lot of teenagers rushing in to go see this deep expose of?" No, that was that was bizarre. I don't exactly know why.
I'm gonna go see it now. I love getting carded. I've been known to beg people to do that.
Yeah, I've never had that happen, and I was just like, "Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why." That was a bizarre one. I'm like, I can see that for some things, but this is a really weird movie of like, I don't know. It was, I think, in the vein of, Spotlight, if you like that sort of, where they, it's people talking about these horrific things and different in various rooms, and journalists being like, it's our duty, and which I do. I like journalism movies in general. It's cool to see people doing the right thing and going against powers that be. Do I believe it's the best at that? No, I don't. But it's hard whenever you're comparing it to other movies like that. I think Spotlight was the better version of that type of movie.
That type of movie works well on the small screen. Mm-hmm. You can watch a movie like that on the small screen. Spirited belonged on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like La La Land was just there's the stylistic, version of it on the big screen was made it beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I think Spirited would be amazing on a big screen.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a small screen. So it's kind of one of those where, like, when I was reading this about She Said, I thought, well, I would have watched it this weekend if it had been on Apple or Disney, any of those.
Well, I guess it will be. I'll tell you, I thought I walked into the wrong theater because when it started, it was like all the trailers were for Ant-Man and for Avatar, and I'm like, okay, typically they're tailored to the audience. I'm like, am I in the wrong thing? And then huge Universal comes up, and it and it was like, what am I in the wrong theater? But no, I guess Universal made this this movie. I don't. Okay,
Wow.
it's a big studio to make a small. I mean, typically they put it underneath one of their indie. They all have
Yeah.
corporate indie
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
So it was a bizarre. I'm like, I think I must have walked into the wrong theater for this. I started to think like, oh no, am I going to be late? But no, it starts and it's actually that. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It was good. I mean, I like one of the interesting things is, they have these phone calls with like celebrities and different people, and they have to like bring in like, I guess, impersonators to do these impressions of. So they have a Donald Trump phone call, and so there's someone doing the Trump voice because she was the one who
The
broke
guy
the
from
news.
SNL.
Oh,
Yeah.
was he?
He does-
Yeah.
I don't know, but he does a really
Yeah.
good.
So
vocal.
someone's in there saying, "Hey, you're real nasty for coming after me." So they do that, and then they bring in. They had someone do a Gwyneth Paltrow voice, which was pretty good. I don't think that was literally. It must have been whoever does her her ADR later, because it was a pretty good
Maybe.
Gwyneth Paltrow impression. But literally, Ashley Judd was in the movie. It was actual
Yeah.
Ashley Judd. Yeah, no, it was. I'd recommend it. But yeah, it was good. But I'd highly recommend The Menu. It was very, very, very,
Yeah.
very, very good.
I cannot wait to see that.
Well, we got to talk about 2 movies, guys.
Oh, I know.
So we, like we said up top, we're talking 2 Nicholas Winding Refn movies. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've heard it said that way, so I think we're good. Drive from 2011 and The Neon Demon from 2016. Shockingly, his last feature film. Can you believe that, Diane? That they wouldn't let him make a feature film after that?
I am shocked.
So we're going to talk about these 2 movies. We haven't spoke about it. Well, we briefly did before, but we haven't dived into it too deeply here with this. So it's going to be fascinating to see what our opinions are of these films. Are you ready to jump in? Are you jumping
Yes.
into them? Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to play our little animation, and then Diane is going to tell us the plot of the movie Drive right after this, our feature presentation.
Hi, let's talk about Drive. Okay, I want to make sure this film was released in 2011. It stars a lot of good people: Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan, Bryan Cranston, Oscar Isaac, Christina Hendricks, Albert Brooks is in it. Albert Brooks, um, Ron Perlman. So we have quite an impressive cast that signed up to do this movie. The movie itself is about a driver who is a skilled Hollywood stuntman who also moonlights as a getaway driver for criminals. And he works in a garage for Bryan Cranston, who wants to make him the next great stock car driver. Bryan Cranston's um, role also is the one who signs him up for stunts that he does on movies, and also with the criminal enterprise as well. Carey Mulligan plays Ryan Gosling's neighbor in his apartment building, and her husband is Oscar Isaac, who has been in prison, and he gets out of prison and runs across some guys from prison that he owes money to, and he needs help. And Ryan Gosling, who his character's name is Driver, which should tell you something about this movie. Anyway, he helps him out. So the fun ensues from there, and I'm not going to go any further without getting into spoilers. And we should, tell people we're ready to do that. this movie, believe it or not, was nominated for Empire Award for the Best Film, Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Picture, Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, and an Independent Spirit Award for Best Male Lead. I mean, and on and on, and I'm like amazed.
Who got the supporting actor nomination?
It was Al Brooks.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That kind of makes sense.
That makes sense.
Because I really thought he had the standout in this one.
Yeah, it's a break from what he typically does.
Yeah.
I think to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. He's usually in much better movies. But anyway.
Diane, did you like this movie, Diane?
I did not like this movie.
Oh, okay. That's a shock.
Here's some of my notes. Let's see. At the very beginning of the movie, it opens up with him being a getaway driver for two guys that are committing a crime.
Yes.
We all see the guys, and he's got his watch, and he's really good at avoiding the police and the helicopter, that's looking for him.
He's a good driver.
And he times it perfectly when the Stapleton Center is letting out from the basketball game.
Yes.
And he gets out of the car and he just walks away like, this is something I do all the time.
Yeah.
Where did the thieves go?
Yeah, that was the most important part, yeah.
It was like, okay, so he plays a getaway driver and he did get away, but did he make any money doing that? Because I never saw the thieves get away with anything.
Maybe they were trying to deliver their money to the stadium. Did you ever think about that?
I have no idea, and that is the problem with this movie. It has a lot of those moments
Diane, but it looked cool, right?
It looked cool. And
yeah.
This is the problem with this movie, though. It has way too many instances where you have no idea what the heck, why they left that hanging. It didn't have to be that way, but they did. And as a result, it took away from the movie. The other issue that I had with it is every character in this, they're not fully developed. I mean, what did we really learn about the driver guy? Like nothing. And then on top of it, Ryan Gosling plays him like he's James Dean or something. But anyway.
I think I read somewhere, and I read this years ago. I don't know if it's factual or not, but so I don't know. I don't know if I'm remembering something else, but I could have swore they said that originally there was narration and they cut it all. That originally they recorded a bunch of narration for this to show what was going on in his head, but then they ended up no. I remember what the thing is.
I saw that like he had a lot more dialogue.
He had a lot more dialogue. That's it.
Dialogue was cut.
That's it. You're right.
And I watched Neon Demon first.
Oh.
So once Driver started, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to go the same way as Neon Demon did, and we'll get into Neon Demon later, obviously. But I actually liked the slowness of it. But I think I was like expecting it. Like once it started slow, I was like, oh, this is going to go essentially the exact same way. And that to me was a little annoying because I was like thinking, okay, this director, is this going to be the same exact movie just with a dude?
Yeah.
And I did go into watching these two films, seeing how this director would handle treating a woman and treating a man. But I actually liked the slowness of it. But again, like I was sort of set up for it because I had already watched Neon Demon.
Yes.
So this is definitely.
So what she was saying was very that's correct. That's correct.
Massive improvement.
He had dialogue and they cut they recorded it all and then they cut it. So that's what happened there. Just to wrap up that bow. Yeah.
Because I think Albert Brooks had more dialogue than Ryan Gosling.
What happens
he just smiled a lot. What
happens is they have characters that walk in and it's like, hey, are you or like they have like a whole one-sided conversation with this person that does not speak, which is kind of funny, but that is what most of the movie is. Yeah.
And after the third time, that's when it got kind of old. It's like,
I actually thought it almost even served itself kind of well because Ryan Gosling would you would see these scenes where Ryan Gosling would be really sweet and he would say something that was really sweet, or he would say something that was like totally out of pocket.
Right.
And like, so I almost liked how restrained he was because I was thinking, okay, is this one of those moments where this is going to be maybe a tender moment, or is he like about to beat this guy up? Like, and that sort of push and pull that I found really interesting.
And after the 57-minute cut mark in the movie, that's truly true. You know, you really get that.
Let's talk about that. So, like, the the plot of the description of the movie I saw was like when a heist or whatever goes awry, which that is like Diane said, 57 minutes into an hour and 40-minute movie. That before that's fascinating because I want to like talk about that because Neon Demon's very similar in the fact that like. What is the act structure? Abby can maybe talk about this a little bit. The act structure of these movies which I talk about a lot on our show, are bizarre. Like, is that the first hour of his films all the first act? Or what's going on there? Because it seems like the inciting incident isn't all the way until an hour into the movie. I don't know. What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, for me, I'm very like visual, so I definitely like that arc of like the climax and everything. To me, it always felt like the climax was like a vertical drop. You know, it's like the climax happens and you are falling, and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I kind of enjoyed with both of these films. I enjoyed the slowness of it. And then it's like those last. Neon Demons specifically was a lot shorter, but Driver and Neon Demons both, they cram it into a really small space of time. But yeah, I definitely agree with you where the act structure does seem, it's a little harder to catch because it is so slow going where you're like, okay, when is something going to happen? When is something going to happen?
Because and so when I heard people talk about Drive, because Drive's been, it's been talked in film communities. People love, the visuals of it and everything. Yeah. It's almost exclusively talked about like the night sequences and everything, which is so small in this movie. It's not a huge part of it. And like even I was under the impression that it was more of like what that opening was, where it was like it was like very little stories. What I was told, that the actor doesn't really talk too much. It's very little dialogue from him. You have all these character actors coming in and out, which is true, but like in my head, I created a totally different movie than what this movie actually was, because I mean, majority of it is this love story, I guess, or whatever, a weird sort of thing of that obsession story. I don't know. From him. That's the majority, which takes place in the broad daylight. That's what most of this movie is, and what most people talk about is that opening, I guess, and then the last 30 minutes or 40 minutes of the movie, where it all goes awry and it takes place over like one night or one short period of time. That's what most people talk about. They don't talk about that hour in the beginning, the whole setup and all that, which I guess makes sense.
Well, the setup itself there's not much setup involved in that hour. You really don't learn anything about your lead character other than that he can drive, that he lives next to Carrie. And then Carrie has a little partially Hispanic son, but Daddy's not Hispanic. Oscar Isaac. I mean, they couldn't find a single Hispanic actor to play that part.
Where you're explaining, like when you were explaining the whole thing, it is somewhat convoluted to know that like there is. I wouldn't call it plot. It is like it's all background setting, and they do that for a whole hour. That's why it's like it seems like an extended first act, because it's you learn Bryan Cranston his whole story about like what he's wanting and everything, and that he's unlucky and all this stuff, and then his ties to Albert Brooks, and then his past ties to Ron Perlman, and Ron Perlman's ties to Albert Brooks, and then like it's all set up for what's going to happen in this very like quick second and third act. So there is stuff that's set up in that hour, but it's all background things. It's not plot. It's all just setting the stage for this very abbreviated second and third act. Which is interesting. I mean, I must say I'm someone who I like sitting in the first act a little bit, because I think people rush that too much. So if in my screenplays and things, if I have any criticism for myself, is I spend too long in the first act. But I do like that that is one of the more interesting parts, is setting the stage is a lot more interesting than what ends up happening, because then it's just plot and it's just stuff. And so I do kind of like that. I do think he stretches it a little too much, a little too much for comfort. And then what he does in the second and third acts aren't all that interesting to me either time.
Yeah. Except for, unusual ways to kill people.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, but I was wrong about Oscar Isaac. All this time I thought that he had a different heritage, and he's from Guatemala, or he's Guatemalan. He was born there. So I apologize for that. That was wrong of me. But at the same time, in the setup portion of it, and he shows how he does this getaway, right? He's got the police radio. He's got his watch. This is what he does. He does it the same way every time. Therefore, he is successful at being a getaway, except for when he does this heist with Oscar Isaac and the other person,
Christina Hendricks.
There's no police radio. There's no watch. So your setup didn't match the back end of it either, and at least how he did his getaway driving, if that makes any sense. Kind of made me a little bit crazy. That's the kind of stuff that makes me nuts. And a NASCAR, the engine alone is $300,000. The car itself is over $1 million. So that whole thing just threw me out of there. I hate.
Diane knows her NASCAR.
I know my auto racing. Anyway, there was something else that kind of took me out too. It was like, okay, the fork in the eye. I mean, how many times do we have to see that in a movie? You use this amazing antique straight edge, right, to kill someone. He even put it back in the case and all that stuff. And then we have a fork in the eye. It just is like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so, Abby, what did you think of the movie? Did you like it at the end of the day, or did you?
I didn't dislike it, and I definitely wouldn't say it's one of my favorite films ever. And a lot of the criticism I saw of both Neon Demon and this is that a lot of his films are really beautiful looking and they don't have much substance.
Yes.
Which I totally see where people are coming from with that. Like I said, I do really like slow films. So I appreciated those moments where things were going really slow and were really quiet. You don't see it as much in Drive as Neon Demon, and I can talk about it more later. I feel like I keep comparing the two, but
it's hard not to.
There were moments that I enjoyed, and there were moments that I was just kind of like, this is just okay. Again, I think mostly what I agree with is that it was really beautiful looking, and the story was just a little flat for me.
Yeah. I think some background to understand the sort of progression between that and Neon Demon is this was his first break into the United States mainstream of that. He of course made a lot of other Danish films and things, but this was his first one here that made a huge splash. Was Drive, and then Only God Forgives, which got both standing ovation and booed at Cannes. There was it became a sort of conversation about whether that his characters are very one-dimensional, shallow. His stuff's very beautiful, but it's slow but beautiful, and the characters are sort of one-dimensional. And it sort of became a criticism that he does not know how to write female characters. And that's whenever he started working on a different project, but then he moved to Neon Demon. He has a screenwriter who is female to help. He's pretty much basically said that he hired her so that he could help combat that problem that he has, perceived problem that he has with writing female characters. So those are criticisms he had. Yeah.
He also brought in a female cinematographer for Neon Demon. And I thought the cinematography in Neon Demon was beautiful. Where Drive was, it was like what you would expect to see in Los Angeles kind of shot film.
Well, it's Michael Mann's, it's Collateral, is it not? Yeah, this is, it owes a lot to that.
Right. Yeah. So, and I thought that from a cinematography perspective, I thought Neon Demon was a much more beautiful film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, beauty is everything.
But also, we're not talking about that yet, guys. We'll get to that in a moment.
Reference there, just a little teaser. Okay, so did you like this film, Cade? Ask us. What did you think?
I did not dislike the film. I thought it was fine. It was fine. The parts that was good was good, and the parts that were bad, I'm like, I don't think it destroys the film or whatever. No, I don't love the film. It is, I think, because of all of its flaws and because of all of its things, I think it doesn't soar like different parts of it. I found like, oh, that's very interesting. Oh, that's very interesting. Albert Brooks, very interesting performance. I think all of them are doing kind of interesting performances. Like they're all kind of, I think he has a knack for that, of like getting these really interesting performances out of actors. I think later we can talk, of course, in Neon Demon we could talk about like Keanu Reeves is an odd performance too.
Okay, are we? We're not talking about Neon Demon, are we?
No, we're not talking about Neon Demon yet. But Albert Brooks and all of them. Christina Hendricks is an interesting performance in that. And Ryan Gosling is doing something interesting. It's the performances are something to watch, but sure wish they were a little bit more three-dimensional characters, or that we at least got clued into them a little bit better. But
I almost felt like at some points they were like a little too restrained. Like the restrainment was nice at first, where I was like, wow, this actor really knows how to portray subtle emotions, and then I was like, okay, now give me a bit more. Like
you were almost it was almost a relief when Ron Perlman came on the screen, right? With anger and with something. Yeah, he's the one who emoted the most, I think, in the whole movie.
Yeah. No, I Albert Brooks toward the end goes to some crazy places. Which his has the more interesting. Like he goes on like a little bit of. I mean, I wouldn't call it an arc, but he progresses as a character. Like because he's put under more and more pressure, whereas Ryan Gosling, when he's put under more and more pressure, just sort of continues on a sort of straight line. But he's that's interesting. And Bryan Cranston, like, I had no idea he was in this movie. I think I knew pretty much everyone else was in it, but I had no idea Bryan Cranston was in it. And he plays such this likable kind of like down on his luck guy. Who's just wants to, keeps trying to bet on his dreams and it don't really work out. And he keeps thinking he's going to have a good luck. Like that's a fun character and really kind. And you really get that character a lot. And, I did like that character. That was I think a fully formed side character. What you would hope that your sort of scripts populated by really interesting supporting characters like that. Don't think I understand anything about Carey Mulligan's character. Don't. No.
And she was given a lot of those for the screenplay just dropped her in. Like she's sitting in the car and she goes, "That was the lawyer on the phone," and it's like, when would she take a call? I mean, you never saw that.
You heard the phone ringing in the previous scene, but like it was just a sound effect, and then it cuts to them in a car. Yeah, some weird choices of like I don't know if that was a scene that was cut altogether. And they decided to just throw in a phone call to I don't know. Yeah.
So what do you think of the ending?
I must say, I watched these back to back, and I almost entirely remember Neon Demon and very little of. That's the one that sticks in my head a lot more, and I can't get it out than Drive. So So it's a little bit of a grayer area for me.
How about you, Abby? What did you think of the ending?
Again, the ending for me was the most prominent moment where I thought, I really love these visuals, particularly the shot with the shadows. I thought was really interesting.
Should have ended on that, probably.
Yeah. And I almost thought it was going to end with like because even the shadow scene, I was kind of for a moment like, oh, who is who? Because I could only see their shadows. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic of like you were left there in that moment of what does happen to Driver. And then you have those few extra minutes where you realize what happens. And I was sort of hoping for a more ambiguous ending because everything else in the film, again, was so restrained that I was like, I'm cool with not knowing what happens to him. Because everything else was so like, just like you said, like he didn't really seem to progress. which I don't view as like a huge criticism. If you want like a visually driven film, then like that's fine to have. In the same way, it's fine to have like a more character driven or more plot driven film. So I did feel like I was ready for it to end sooner than it did. But also like the ending seemed really abrupt, if that makes sense. Like once it kept going,
Right.
I was like, oh, we're still going. There's still going to be another scene or two. And then it did just cut off like just a tad bit longer than I expected, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
They
thought
had
the
to have
same
a
thing.
call back to the blinking thing, which I don't. Yeah, that was what we waited on.
Because in that moment, I thought, oh, like it's just going to end and he's not going to blink and we're not going to know like what happens to him. And then he blinked and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It was definitely an interesting ending. I guess it was probably the best thing that they could come up with. I'm kind of like you. I think that I would have liked for it to end with the shadows.
Yeah.
To where you really and truly don't know what, because it would go with that particular movie. I think let you come up with your own. Anyway, so
the fact that he would just leave the money next to Albert Brooks's corpse was also like, okay, well you just closed the loop. Wasn't the movie supposed to end with him giving that to them and then the mother? Yeah.
Exactly.
I took it as like, I guess he didn't want to keep, like the money caused him so much grief that he didn't want to keep it. Like that's how I took it. But I was also kind of like, okay, but he's dead. So, like what's
the
what
point?
is this solving? Yeah, I guess maybe then it was like a point to show that he was concerned that like there was going to be somebody else connected with it. But yeah, I also felt the same way where I was like, why is that there?
yeah. I mean that. Yeah, I don't know if it was a point of like it was kind of almost like Psycho's money thing that like it was like, oh, it was all for that and it was all for that, but that makes sense from like Albert Brooks's character's perspective, but not so much from the main. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
It would make a lot more sense if you were going to have him drive off into the sunset for him to pick up that bag and throw it in the car. It would have made more sense for him to if this is how you're going to end the movie with him driving off into the sunset, it made more sense for him to take the money.
Yeah.
I weirdly in that moment too found myself looking to the soundtrack to figure out what I was supposed to be thinking. And it's interesting because with Neon Demon and while I was watching Olive Drive up until the end, I was sort of annoyed with the soundtrack because it felt almost a little too on the nose.
Like the score or the soundtrack or the
score, I guess is what I mean. But the ending of Drive has, it's like more of a soundtrack. And it's like singing about how
he's a real hero.
He's a real human and a
real human being.
And that's how I took it too, is like, oh, maybe is this him like leaving the getaway driving life? Is that what this is supposed to mean?
Or is he going on to the next town to be a hero there?
Yeah.
That song in particular. I like the score of both these films a lot. But that song is the glaring thing that it comes in twice in Drive, and it's just the phrase over and over again. You're a real hero, you're a real human being, over and over and over again. That it was just like, what is this? Like, what it did, like that's a little like too on the nose or too on, like, I don't, that took me out quite a bit of in that, like, it's to have a music repeatedly saying your main character is a human being and a hero was bizarre choice, I thought.
Especially since I had subtitles on, so I was getting all the song lyrics.
Yeah, I did too.
And you're right, Abby. It was so dead on. It was like, come on.
Yeah.
For such an ambiguous film, ambiguous characters, maybe this is the narrative, right? It's the songs. Okay.
Well, okay. Do you want to have any more to say? Any other notes? Do you have any other notes, Abby, that you want to talk about?
I think we pretty much covered all that I was thinking.
Great cast.
The other note that I have is that Ryan Gosling's little finger is almost as long as his ring finger.
Oh, did not notice that, Diane.
I had nothing to watch, so yeah, I noticed that.
Well, cool. That thanks for noticing that, Diane. That's
Sure.
I appreciate that. The
Now you can look for that in his next movie.
Diane, what do you want to? Would you recommend this movie, and what would you rate it?
I don't know anyone I would recommend this movie to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really don't know anyone who would enjoy it, at all. So I am going to give it one bourbon because I need a drink right now from having watched it.
Okay, just want a single bourbon.
Single, yeah, a single neat, no ice.
Let's see here. Bourbon. Oh boy, wait a second.
He only lets me have the drink. Yeah, I only get the drink, so I usually try to pick something that they used in the movie, but no drinks were like I never saw anybody drink or eat anything. So I'm sure they did. Yeah, there we go. Single glass of bourbon, and that's really for me.
Did they not drink anything in the movie?
I don't.
There's the
remember
party
them drinking
scene.
anything. Yeah,
That's all
there is
that I
the
can
party
think of,
scene,
but I can't think of
they
anything.
had champagne, I think, in that one, but I just can't do champagne with this movie. Maybe Neon Demon I could, but not this one.
Okay, Abby. There's no rules to our ranking. They can be there could be stars. It could be out of whatever. It could be emojis. Whatever you want to rank to do it. There's no rules.
Okay.
Last week I think Jennifer used 10 piles of poop.
Yeah. So whatever you want to. And first off, would you recommend it? And then what would you rate it?
I think I would recommend it. Again, I would probably say, do you want a film that looks really nice? Watch this film. Or do you need some inspiration? Then watch this film. Again, not bad though, so I would maybe give it 3 getaway cars out of 5.
Okay.
Maybe like a 2.75 rounded up.
Mm-hmm. They do also have a racing car emoji, but we're not going to do that, I guess. 3.
There you go.
There's 3 cars there for you. I don't know where to put it. Up there.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
We'll move hers up there too. I guess I would also recommend it. I with a caveat of it's not going to be everyone's. I wouldn't even say it's mine, my cup of tea, but it is. I think it's one of those that being that I know, I don't know if Diane, but this is talked about quite a bit within film community. So it's it's well worth sort of seeing, just so I think you can see it and have an opinion on it, because it is something that you kind of have to see, and it is visually very interesting. And it's interesting to see a different sort of perspective with filmmaking, because he definitely does have that is different than. He throws out a lot of the rules, I think, and so you gotta give him some respect for that. I guess, and the respect is me saying, I guess watch it if you want to. And so I'm giving this a scorpion. No one grabbed the scorpion.
Oh, well, if I had an option.
No one grabbed the scorpion. So
I was kind of disappointed that they referenced the scorpion story once, but they didn't do more, with that. So anyway.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people wear that stupid scorpion jacket because of this movie. Diane, I hope you know. It's a thing.
I would have never thought of this movie as any kind of a culty thing, but okay.
Now you know. Now
I know.
Uh-huh. Well, great. We're going to go into our intermission now. It's should be real fun. Grab something from the concession stand, and then Abby, I'm so sorry, Abby, you have to explain the plot of Neon Demon to our audience. So
that is a-okay.
Perfect, great. I like that attitude. Diane would not have that attitude if she had to explain the plot of Neon Demon, I think. But here we go.
That's what I think of this movie.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go to intermission, and we'll be right back with the plot of Neon Demon and the discussion of it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. All these delicious treats are waiting for you at the refreshment stand. Delicious fresh popcorn, ice-cold cola, and candy you know and love. They're all ready for you now, so you won't have to miss any of the feature. Come and get them.
And now, on with the show.
So, Neon Demon is a film starring Elle Fanning playing Jessie. And Jessie is an aspiring model. She is about 16 years old in this film, just turned 16. And she meets a cast of characters. She meets Carl Glusman, who plays Dean, as a sort of love-struck photographer. Jenna Malone as Ruby, who is a makeup artist. We also have Bella Heathcott and Abby Lee as Gigi and Sarah. And as Jessie moves into this modeling industry, it becomes very clear that she is making waves in this industry. And it becomes clear as the film moves on that the people around her have maybe something more sinister going on underneath the surface and maybe don't have her best interest at heart. And yeah, that's about all I can say without spoiling too much there.
No, that was good. That's real simple and to the point. I like that. They, Abby, what'd you think about this movie?
I liked it more than Drive, actually. Again, I might say because of the visuals, I liked it more than Drive. I also, like, probably my favorite part of it that really sold this movie for me was the difference between like light and dark and quiet and loud. And like you see it in the first couple scenes where it starts really loud and then the next scene it's just like dead quiet. There is nothing but the characters talking, and pretty, of course, like it wasn't perfect the entire time, but pretty consistently it went back and forth between super loud and then super quiet, and I just really liked that dynamic of it.
Yeah, a lot of films don't use the audio as well, I think, or just to showcase the sort of, it's all sort of mid. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Diane, what'd you think about this movie?
You know, I like this one better than Drive too.
Oh, do we all three like this movie better than Drive? Okay, I liked it better than Drive.
And I think, Abby, for a lot of the same reasons you just said, it's beautifully shot. Some of the outdoor scenes, indoor scenes, I mean, the contrast that they used in lighting and which kind of went along with the sound contrast that they did. It was beautiful. You know, that there's the one scene where she's, for the first time, she's going to do a runway walk in front of a designer, and just the look of hunger on the model that goes before her, watching her, and the look of hunger from the designer. They both, but it was a different type of hunger. That whole montage, right? It was just amazing.
Some could say they wanted to eat her, right?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the whole premise, right? Everybody was hungry for her, if you know what I mean. Even the mountain lion that enters her room.
That was whenever I'm out. I'll tell you, I'm terrified of mountain lions. Don't like them, and that's more terrifying to me than any other thing in this movie is that mountain lion.
I thought that was really strange. I was like, why would they? Is this supposed to be symbolize something I'm not getting out of this, or what was it? Until we got to the end and then went, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Everyone loves beauty.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be her. And you know, as it progresses, although there's not a lot of background for her, and you have very little information about her other than that, you know, she's 16, she's new to Los Angeles. And
she's from Georgia.
Her parents are not in the picture in some way, shape, or form, but she has more of an arc, you know, from a character perspective.
Yeah.
When you first see her, of course, beyond the very first photo shoot, right? And you actually see her as who she is. She looks like an innocent 16-year-old young girl that's naive and is really unsure of herself. And then you get to the end where, you know, she realizes they want to be her. you know, and she has power at that point, then yeah, she has a real arc in it. So, and
Yep.
Elle Fanning is a wonderful actress anyway. So she really is.
Yep, I'll go 3. I liked it better than Drive. I thought it was to me the standout is that soundtrack. Or the score of this. I think I know that some people don't, and I liked it. To me, it's one of the best scores I have ever heard in a film. I'm gonna go that far. I loved how bombastic it was, and how and it was extraordinary. I thought very that opening scene is very reminiscent of a film I love that no one ever talks about, but it's available for free on YouTube because it was not a big film. It was in the 80s. It was Liquid Sky. It's a very reminiscent of Liquid Sky, and I love that it's and there's a few different sort of things to that. And then I look, I'm like, it had to be intentional, and yes, it was one of the reference points for this movie was that. So check out that movie. I really was impressed by the visuals, and the each of the performances was fascinating. Like on each level, Elle Fanning's, and then I love Jenna Malone, and she's great in this. But shocked by Keanu Reeves is doing an odd character in this that you would like. He's kind of one of the, he's like a mean guy or whatever, I guess you would say. Doing a different voice too, and kind of nailing it, like in a person who's known for doing can't do voices, can't, and like playing it very naturalistically. I've never seen him nail a performance that is so different from his normal mode and just knocking it out of the park in believability. Like it's just like he I don't know. I love Keanu Reeves a lot, but he has an avenue that you kind of have to walk him down. And this is totally on a different road. And I'm like, why isn't he doing more sort of things down that road? Because he can do that very, very, very well. And I've never seen him do that.
He was the surprise in the movie itself. Yeah, he was definitely the surprise. And the contrast, I think again, the contrast with light and dark and the sound, I think Canoe provides that other contrast in character and all these beautiful people. And then you have him. So
yeah, no, I liked it a lot. Again, I guess we can go into sort of similarities of that. The act structure, very similar, that it's all sort of I would say it's all first act again for the first hour, because it doesn't, to the point again, this is somewhere I knew some of that sort of ending part, but like not to the extent that it happens and everything. But I assumed again that the movie was about that, but no, it's not until the very last act that sort of it does that, and it's
even the last part of the last act.
Yes. Yeah. So, but the movie is about. I mean, it's about that. I appreciated more so than Drive. The difference is I like films that are about something, that have themes. Now they very shallowly, which again the movie's sort of about that too. Gross, that the way that they talk about these themes are very shallowly. But I appreciate that they actually had a theme and multiple sort of facets of that theme. That they were dealing with, where Drive had none. I would say had zero. I did like that. And it's a great setting for a movie like this.
Yeah.
I don't know what
it
you
is.
guys
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, like, I'm always sort of cautious when it comes to Hollywood films that are about the Hollywood system. Especially when I was doing research for the film too, I saw that Elle Fanning was 16 when they filmed this. And so I was like, oh, that makes me feel a little weird. Because it is like about the exploitation of particularly young girls and just like women in general. But I also thought I thought it was going to go a different direction, and I kept waiting for one of the men to snap. And I liked that I almost liked that the men's portrayal was more subtle. Like cynicism was a little more subtle, and the moment with Keanu Reeves and the guy who plays Dean, where he's talking about, oh, I just had a runaway come in. I found that scene particularly like powerful in like the worst way, because I was like, ew, this is really disgusting. And so I liked that it had sort of, it's like, it's both of these. I don't want to fully like in real life blame the people that are a part of systems, but it's like it also turns the people that are in systems potentially into monsters. But it's also the men that are perpetuating this, like particularly with the other photographer, the bald guy. I can't think of his name right now. How he perpetuates this behavior and just keeps it, particularly in the end where Abby Lee's character just walks back out to go back to the photo shoot. Or is telling the models like, you can't leave, like you need to stay, and you know, doing all of these things. And you see how it sort of put these women into this situation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more at play here in this. I agree. And that there was a lot of people that were upholding the system and everything. I think of one of my favorite scenes was the Christina Hendricks scene, where she's like the first sort of interview there, and like her like essentially saying what the, you know, her saying to say that she's 19 and never did, and like just sort of a peek behind that curtain of that, and how she's just, and even like she was like where she's saying some people would, I would never say, but some people would say, you know, you're fat or something, like we're like these little things of like, that's just the first sort of glimpse you get at that. And she portrayed that perfectly, of like someone who's, you know, trying to act like they're looking out for her, but is really using her as the first step in that sort of process.
Yeah, that designer was the most honest one in the whole series, in the sense that he actually said, you know, I even wrote it down, true beauty is the highest currency we have. And beauty isn't everything, it's the only thing. And that truly is what this film is about. Yeah. Is the exploitation of beauty and it as a currency, depending on how you, currency can mean a lot of things. But I, going into this, thought, oh, here we go. Here's another male director who's going to give us his, you know, fantasy film, kind of like Suspiria, of what he's always wanted to see two women doing to each other, or women doing alone, or whatever. And I thought going into it, that's what we were going to get. And there was a little bit of that. I could see why people at Cade's walked out of the movie about the corpse time. It's where I'm thinking that happened.
That was a moment where I was like, I am a queer person. Cade, you've seen my film. Like, I am always sort of cautious of, especially like men portraying lesbians. And I was really enjoying Ruby as sort of a lesbian villain at this point. I thought it was really intriguing. And then the morgue scene lost me a little bit. It was why?
Why didn't it have to be there? It was totally unnecessary to the film. Totally.
Yeah. Well, and then what they did with her character in general, from that, even that scene on, like there was that, like that was the most one of the more interesting characters in the entire film, and then there was just like, did not do anything with that character at all.
I was really on board of like, oh, she's looking out for her, but she also like wants this thing that she can't have. And then you sort of get the hint of, oh, maybe she's not looking out for her. And I was still really intrigued by that. But again, like the morgue scene kind of turned it into a different thing where I was like, oh, she's obsessed with her, and that's all there is to it. And so I was a little bit disappointed, like you said, in her character arc. I felt like it was going places, and then it took a real sharp turn into a direction that I didn't particularly.
It could have been, her character could have been something completely different at the end. I mean, they could have done so much more with her at the end, I think. But once they did the morgue scene with her, and then showed her laying on the grave, I mean, it's like, all that was completely unnecessary and not important to the plot. And it kind of, I don't know, it just diminished her character, in my personal opinion. I thought she was a great villain. From the very beginning, I thought this is going to be the one that's going to be the bad guy. Well, and so did we have to make her psychotic? I mean, come on.
So maybe you understand the two other models, what their sort of perspective is on all that, but we really don't. You have to sort of read into as to why Jenna Malone's character would did what she did, and I think that sort of is a little bit of a disservice to the film of like. I mean, I'm open for some sort of things, open for interpretation, but that is, I don't know. I mean, why did she do what she did? Just out of obsession?
Exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, so she just wants what she can't have, and now she's upset about it.
Yeah.
I agree. Because the other two women, I felt really compelled by their story of, I understand exactly why they're doing that. Again, not that a director, like you said, has to spell things out for their audience, but I appreciated that sort of, I guess symbolism there of, I totally get what they're desiring. But Jenna Malone, I felt like after that, the pool scene happened, you don't really see her a ton, and I didn't really understand what
she's on her own little path. Like, and it was like cobbled into like this montage sequence that is what ends the film. I mean, it was just like, there should have, I don't know if there was more to that, or like these are supposed to be some sort of symbolic of something that, it was, I agree that there should have been something else there to clue us into what happened with that character. That was not there. Yeah, which to me, one of the more interesting characters in the film. I mean, definitely the performance was extraordinary, I thought. Yeah. Do we talk about the eyeball in the room? That's what everyone, that's whenever I told Diane before we did that, I'm like, I can't wait to hear her reaction, because this, all I knew about this movie was people talk about the eyeball scene. And I didn't realize it was the last scene of the movie, and that I'm like, oh, am I thinking this different? I'm like, oh no, here we go. So let's talk about the eyeball scene. Diane, take it away.
After the corpse scene, I was done with the movie. Up until that point, I thought, this is, I'm very impressed with this movie so far, right? And then after the corpse scene, I was kind of like, okay, well, whatever. So you wouldn't take first off, an eyeball is gelatinous. It would have never survived stomach acid, number one. Number two, the only thing that an eyeball would come out like that is if it was glass. I mean, come on, guys. You're treating us like we're stupid. And I hate that. I mean, first off, you have to take, really, to me, the most interesting character, right, which was Jenna Malone's character, Ruby, and you turned her into like a freak, which you didn't have to do. And now you're telling me that eyeballs are non-digestible. Yeah, fuck you. Not stupid. And that's when the movie lost me at that point.
Yeah, I would agree that the corpse scene to the eyeball scene was where I was like, oh, this movie is completely lost and off the rails. But I kind of like the eyeball scene in a weird way of like thematically what it's sort of saying. I do think that was the more understandable scene of what they were sort of talking about, that like where a lot of that stuff was just way excessive and way confusing and not like it was purely for visual sake. I do think the eyeball scene made sense thematically, and that's all it needed to make sense for me. I know it doesn't make sense in real world, like you said, with all of its things, but I thought at least that was clear. It made it sort of interesting to sort of see these different characters' perspectives and what could the eyeball mean and why did she ate the eye. I don't know. The audience needs to know this. The lady, the one of the models who ate Elle Fanning. They eat Elle Fanning in this movie, and they one of the models is at a shoot and that she got because Elle's not there, right? It was right at the whole thing. She took her place, and as they're taking the photo, she starts to throw up, and she runs to another room and she throws up Elle's that character. What's the character's name again?
Jesse
throws up her eyeball, and she's like, I got to get her out of me, cuts her stomach open with a pair of scissors and bleeds out. The other model who's there eats the thrown up eyeball and swallows it and then goes back out to the photo shoot. That's what happens, just so the audience knows. That's what we're talking about. That's what we saw on film. This is the movie we're talking about. I thought that was a little bit more like as to why did she eat the eyeball. I think that is a fascinating conversation. There's a few theories as to why she ate the eyeball. I think theory one, there's something about her that people wanted to eat and everything. There's something there that perhaps she wanted an essence of her. something otherworldly, something beautiful, something that is undescribable, the X factor or whatever, that she won that. Other part is it's hiding the mess, hiding the sort of, we're going to hide what the problem is and hide what sort of happened here. And so I'm going to eat this eyeball. And so, yes, Ava said spoiler alert, question mark. Yeah. Oh, I don't know why it's gray like that, but yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah. Yes. So, I don't know. I thought it opened itself up in any of those, I think makes sense thematically, but it's left open-ended in a kind of interesting way. So I'm pro eyeball scene, I guess is what I'm saying.
I
Whatever.
also am pro eyeball scene. I think like I found it really like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that was like I didn't enjoy that part of it. But I kind of took it as like them being some sort of like vampiric sort of creature, especially with all the blood. I was like, oh,
There's
I
three of
took it
them.
as like they're like eating her to get something that she has, sort of thing, like a taking in her power sort of thing. And I just thought Abby Lee's performance in that scene was really powerful. Like when you see that it almost is something that she can't control, but she has to do it, like, and like she has the tear that runs down her face. So I thought, oh, she doesn't necessarily want to do this. She just has like this compulsion to do it. And so I thought that was like a really powerful moment and a really good, like a really powerful way to end it. Cause at first, I also like didn't really like Elle Fanning's character. I thought she was like really like she would just say like the most out of pocket stuff. It was like very similar to Ryan Gosling's character, where she would just like have this really sweet voice, but she would be saying things that were like really mean and weird.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like that about her, because I was like, I think it shows that a character doesn't have to be nice for you to like feel bad about what happens to them. But yeah, I really enjoyed that scene. Like I thought Abby Lee's performance was just really powerful, in the worst way.
Yeah, I agree. And so I can get why. I don't quite see how, if you have watched that movie up to that point, why that would be so shocking. I mean, it's shocking, but it's not corpse scene shocking. Like, I'm surprised that wasn't sort of what people left talking about. Like, that one was the more sort of, oh wow, that went over the line. Yeah. So that
the only thing I didn't understand was why the other model like felt the need to end her life. I was confused because she said like, I have to get her out of me, and I was like, so is Elle Fanning like coming back for you? Like,
she was going to burst
going?
out of the
Yeah, like I was really confused. That was the one moment where I was like, okay, now where is this going? Does Elle Fanning, is it showing that Elle Fanning like still has some power over them? Who knows?
Yeah, I gotta get, because that's also fast. I gotta get her out of me. Like I think it was, the fact that, I don't know, was it like imposter sort? Oops. There we go. Sorry, click my thing there. The was it imposter syndrome? Was it like her feeling like, or was it the sickness over sort of the crime that she committed? I don't know. I think it is sort of left open ended, or I don't know.
Well, Ruby kind of dies the same way in the house, right? She bleeds to death because it's all of Jesse's blood that's coming out of her, right?
That's left a little open. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that was a genuine question, because that scene, that was another scene that I was very sort of confused by, because I was like, what's happening? Because it seemed like she was enjoying it. And so I was a little I was like, is this something that always happens when you do this? Or is this like something that's new? And that was where I was really confused, because I was like, everything else I could kind of put
and that was her
maybe
final scene in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Your big villain of the movie is left kind of very ambiguous what happened. Yeah.
Obviously bleeding.
Obviously bleeding. Yes, there was that. So I mean, like we didn't really talk about the sort of occult aspect of it that is somehow part of it. That is like hinted at that there is some sort of.
It's back to the coven thing.
It's a witch or
They've got a
vampiric.
coven of three, and it's an old trope
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, the coven of three, and they try to recruit her into it. She rejects them, so they eat her.
Yes.
And a male director gets all his fantasies on film.
She had a rough time with Suspiria, is what she had.
Yeah.
It's almost here's the thing, and maybe it's because I'm old, but it's almost like every young actress is required to make a film about being a young actress or a young person, talented person that gets punished for it. And invariably,
Sure.
there is a lot of visuals relate to the typical I'm going to call it a male fantasy trope. And this film had it. Suspiria had it. It's like, okay, if you want to be a big star in Hollywood, you have to make one of these films, and almost all of them are required to make one of them. So yes, it's a commentary on feminism and witches and cults and covens and all that. Okay, I'll shut up on that.
No, you're right. I mean, I think there's sort of things that are said about that there's almost I don't know, symbolic sort of things that I don't know, whatever. I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, I even started writing them down. The old knife going down the throat. We all know what that's representing. And then you have the girl on girl part, and then it's like
you wrote all that down, Diane.
Check it off the list of here are the things that men want to see, and we don't want our women to be heroes in these kind of movies ever, because they're witches. They're a coven of witches. Is what they are.
Yeah. We missed some Ava things. Ava said, I'm a bit queasy just hearing about it. So
I'm so glad she did not watch this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. This is one of those movies where...
yeah, this is definitely the one we do not recommend Ava to watch.
No, not at all. The first act of this movie I truly, truly enjoyed. And like I said, I like this movie better than Drive. The first act, though, was beautiful. And even that I could appreciate the cinematography as it went on. When she was standing on the diving board and behind her is like the world. That was a beautiful shot.
Well, the eyeball scene, the hallway that they're in, that blue hallway. Yeah. Oh, that's just beautiful. Where it's like, even and you see outside to the thing, and it's cast blue, the palm trees blue. It's like this beautiful hallway that's just like, which that is a lot of beautiful. I like the part where they're like where she's selected to be like the closer of the runway, and it's like all in black, and she's visualizing that like that triangle thing out there, and it's just this bombastic synth score. That's another standout visual auditory things that's together.
Yeah, and the
also
triangle.
really liked the moment where she's doing it with that bald photographer the first time she's with him, and he just asked her to take all her clothes off, and he's walking in and it's dark and it's just him like with this singular light coming from the door behind him. I thought that was like a really powerful visual, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful, and like this scene looks beautiful, and he's like walking towards her, and he's sort of got like this, almost you would think like this angelic light coming towards her, but I was like, oh, but also he's an adult man who just asked a child to take all of her clothes off in front of her, and even if she wasn't a child, like he just asked her to take all of her clothes off.
Right.
But the fact that like she clearly is like an underage person, and you're about to like do this, like he has his hands all over her body. I thought that was particularly powerful because it was so beautiful, and like the dichotomy of it being beautiful but also him being predatory in that scene. And I think that's again where the sort of subtlety of the men's characters came through a lot for me, because their behavior was much more subtle, and it was like these girls are just doing what they have to do to please these men, but these men are doing what like is perpetuating all of this. And the bad part of it is it's really subtle, and it can like be visually beautiful. So people just put up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for the art. If the art's good, you know, gravy train keeps going. Yeah. And it is can be. Yeah. That's very well put.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah,
Very well.
we agree. No. Any other notes that you have about this? Anyone? Diane takes lots of notes.
I do take a lot of notes, but sometimes I can't read them because I take them in the dark. I watched Drive last night when it was dark.
Yes.
And that kind of made it more interesting, I think. The Neon Demon I watched today, and I watched it this morning. I had to wake up really extra early this morning, which is not like me at all. So I did kind of nod off a couple of times.
Okay.
Which might be
It
why
is
I like
very
the movie.
similar. It is very similar to Drive, and that's why I was sort of expecting Drive to go the way it did, where it's so slow, and then those last couple moments or those last few scenes are where it all really like you're like, oh, it's all hitting the fan now.
Yeah. No, and I think what sets it apart is the sort of, to me, that it's thematically about something. And I think very interesting is that, I mean, people, so this is actually one of our lower rated things that we've covered here on, it's got like a 50 something on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of those, people, it's a very, very polarizing. Again, at Cannes, it was received like a weird mixture of a booing and standing ovation. It's one that people either love or hate. It's seemingly is one of those movies, but I like that it swings for the fences. I think that it misses a few different times, but I do appreciate any film that. Very, very few films will go as far as this film did, and I do appreciate it. Criticisms were that it was also, they called it shallow characters and visuals that, you know, that they didn't really dig the theme or dig into the theme too much. But I don't know. I've seen blockbusters that do much less that with themes and everything. I appreciated that it had one. So many films do not. So I appreciate that at least that they did it, and they at least, I think, hit at it from a few different angles. Whether or not it was deep or anything was a whole thing, but at least they came at it from a few different perspectives. That was actually kind of interesting, and said different things about the beauty and the modeling industry and everything. Okay, Abby, would you recommend this movie, and what would you rate it?
Similar to Baby Driver, I would recommend it. Again, I would say here are some scenes you can watch. Like, keep an eye out for these scenes because of the visuals. Storyline, maybe not. But again, because of the visuals is how I would, like you said, with caveats, I would recommend it for the visuals. And I would give it same as Baby Driver, but 3 bloody eyeballs out of 5.
Okay.
I was hoping you would get the eyeball.
I had 2 different things worked for. I had eyeball as an option in case no one did eyeball. So I will have to do my other option, which isn't as good, but 3 eyeballs. Here we go. So 3 eyeballs. Diane, would you recommend this movie, and what would you rate it?
I would not recommend this movie because I don't, other than you guys, I don't know anyone who's like totally into like cinema speak, right? So I always think of Ava. Would I recommend this movie to Ava? The answer is absolutely not. Would not recommend this movie to. I think that Ava would be scarred for life if she watched this.
Well, what if she just stopped at the pool scene whenever with like Elle Fanning just declaring that she's, you know, the great and everyone wants to be her? If it stopped there, would you recommend the movie?
Probably not.
Okay. It'd sort of not make it. Yeah, it wouldn't have any point, would it?
No. Wouldn't have any point. You need that last bit for this to have a point. I would give it 1 glass of champagne.
Okay.
Because they all had, they had champagne, but they never drank anything or ate anything. Because why would they? They're bottles.
I think they ordered coffee, right, at the diner. They ordered coffee.
I don't know.
Coffee in a fruit cup.
In a fruit cup. Yeah, do you want a
that's
fruit
right.
cup?
Oh yeah, do you have a fruit cup? Give me a fruit cup. I forgot about the fruit cup. Yes, definitely.
I don't know if there's a fruit cup emoji. I'd imagine there's not.
I think there is one though. In there, there's one that looks like fruit cup. If I remember correctly, I was looking real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do not see.
I think you don't see a fruit cup emoji.
I don't.
Or one that could be used.
I'm giving you 2 champagne glasses cheering is what I'm giving you.
Oh, well.
Which makes it seem like a lot more of a pleasant film. Celebratory, almost. Yeah, I don't see anything that's fruit cup related. Sorry. I mean, I could give you a bunch of different fruits, I guess.
No, that's okay. I don't want anyone to get the impression I would give this more than a single rating. Hi, Ollie. Did you decide to come back in here? Okay.
I don't know. I was hoping for eyeball, but I'm not gonna lie. It's fine.
I'm so glad she took that.
I guess just like a little camera flash thing. I don't know. I didn't have a backup. There we go. I would recommend this movie to everyone. Go and see Neon Demon and be scarred for life. Never forget this. Sure. We'll go ahead and watch it. I liked it more than Drive. I thought it was, I for all the reasons said, it was about something. The performances were interesting. Visually beautiful. I absolutely love the score of this film. Like, it was very beautiful, and it goes in its last half hour to extreme crazy places. So there, I guess. I don't know. Watch it. But sure, I'll recommend it. Everyone go and watch it. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I say it's going to be not most people's tea. I think most people will hate this movie. So there's that. So Ava said, not a chance. You can swing for the fences. LOL. They don't know why these are showing up dark on there, but yeah. Ava, don't watch it. I'll tell you not to watch it. Everybody else to watch it. She says she has no desire to be scarred. Well, okay. Sad. Well, those have been our discussions of these movies. We're going to go into our feature preview for next week. So we'll tell you what we're watching next week after this little break.
And now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Let's take a look at what's coming your way. Well, next week's a little bit lighter fare. In fact, we'll have Ava here, I believe, next week to discuss Maggie's Plan, which is a rom-com, so much different. Starring, I believe it's Greta Gerwig, Ethan Hawke, Julianne Moore's in it. So a lot of fun people in that. I think even more than that, but that's what's on my list right here. And then we have Diane's one film she gets per season. Finally, you have earned it after these movies. So we are watching the movie, which I had not heard of until Diane sent it, called Trust Me is what it's called. You want to tell us about that, Diane? Do you know? It's Clark Gregg.
This is Clark Gregg from the Marvel world. It was his first movie to write and direct, I believe, and his daughter's in it. But it also has Sam Rockwell, Amanda Peet, William H. Macy, Allison Janney. I mean, how can you go wrong, right?
I think Molly Shannon's in it, right?
Yeah, Molly Shannon's in. I mean, there's a bunch of people in this thing, so it should. Niecy Nash, wow, is in it. It's a lot of people in it. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I was going to look in. It doesn't have the world's greatest ratings, but you know what? If we could just laugh instead of like be horrified for a weekend, I'd be good with that.
Yeah. Well, cool. I don't know exactly where each of those are at on streaming.
They are both. They're both rentals. No matter
both
what
rentals.
you do, you've got to
Okay.
rent them from wherever your favorite renting.
We went a little niche with next week, but they should be fun. They're big ensemble, fun comedy, so that should be fun. We'll see how they are. But yeah, that's next week. Watch them, Maggie's Plan and Trust Me. You'll have to rent them both, or wait to see what our recommendations are with that. But we will spoil them. That's the trade-off. So if you want to watch them unspoiled, you need to watch them beforehand.
See, I wouldn't have talked about the eyeball just to give somebody to look forward to.
Just to surprise them. Yeah. No, I mean,
I was surprised.
Yeah, well, Abby, thank you for joining us, especially on our movies aren't typically like this, right, Diane?
Yeah. Right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
it was great meeting you, Abby. I hope we get to do this again together.
Yeah,
totally.
Join us for our next season. So we are wrapping up this season, which I think we're officially going to actually title it season 2, just so we're clear, since we do take these breaks. So end of season 2, we'll be starting season 3 early next year at some point. We'll announce the dates later, but we have only 2 more part of this season next week, and then the week after that. So only 2 more this season, but yeah, we'd love to have you on season 3, Abby.
Totally. Keep me updated.
Anything
if you could recommend a movie that's not painful to watch, would be great.
Yeah. It was not. I mean, like the thing is that we haven't seen these movies, so it's always
right.
a blind thing as to what's going to happen in front of our eyes, and this is what happened to us this week.
At least you knew about the eyeball ahead of time. I did not, so I had to roll my eyes on that and go, you just had to do it. You just had to go there, didn't you guys? Let's see, we only have, next week and then the week after that, and then we're finished for the season, aren't we?
We are. And then we'll have to do Diane and I, we do our rankings of the season too, where we say our least favorite and least favorite. So look forward to that after the season wraps and everything. But yeah, well, Abby, anything you want to plug or anything before we get off here? To tell people to follow you or anything?
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. My YouTube channel is Abby Hoover, just my first and last name. It's mostly older stuff. My capstone film is on its festival run right now. It's finishing up. Diane, if you're interested, I can send you the link, though. It's just a private link.
Okay.
And I have an Instagram that's abby.hoover with an extra R there at the end.
Okay. So Instagram, that's where what do you post on Instagram?
I mostly post about my films on Instagram, but it's also just me posting about my life.
There you go.
Well, cool. Well, great. Yeah, follow her on everything. Yeah, or it's like I said, I really love your work, and I can't wait. Is the idea to put out your capstone out publicly eventually, or is that the idea? Or
probably, yeah. So like its 2-year festival run is coming up technically in like May. That's when I finished it. So after that, I'll probably put it publicly. So I don't have to keep sending the links to people.
So
well, cool.
Tell us, what's it about? Can you give us a little synopsis?
Yeah, totally. So it is a documentary film. It's called Rituals of Our Own. It is exploring the intersection between a queer identity and a religious identity. So I talked to quite a few religious leaders in my area, queer religious leaders, and it's talking about like some queer people's importance or some queer people's relationships to religion, and like how
Right.
important it can be for the queer community.
Yeah.
So,
How
yeah, that's what it's
interesting.
about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be, yeah. Send me the link to that. I would love
Totally.
to see it. I have
Yeah,
friends who
of
would like to
course.
see it too.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, yes, like I said, we'll have you on sometime again because that I really liked your analysis of these films.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
It's like the old days.
it's just like
We
the
would
old
go in
days.
second grade.
Yeah. Just like the old days, exactly. Well, great. Join us next week. Was it Maggie's Plan? Trust me, and follow Abby on all their stuff.
And be sure and like,
Oh yes, Diane.
subscribe everywhere we are, which is Cade.
Oh yeah. So right now, I mean, we're doing a live stream version of our video right now here on youtube.com/Cade Thomas. You can join us live here Sundays at 6:15 Central, or you can listen to it the next day on all your favorite podcast platforms, whichever way you prefer. If you like to see our video and our beautiful faces, watch us on YouTube. It's also available after that stream as a video on demand on the YouTube channel. So if you like our faces, then go to YouTube. If you just want to hear our voices, and our voices are really what you love, then podcast, that's where it needs
Unless
to be.
you can speed us up so we sound like chipmunks.
Yes, whatever the case is, unless you watch us live, you can't speed us up and go into the future. But if you want to watch us quicker and get to the point a little bit faster, then yeah, I'd recommend putting ×2 or something. Right, Diane? Times 3.
I think Jennifer listens at times 5. I'm really sure. Yeah.
Lightning
Yeah,
speed.
I'm pretty sure we sound like chipmunks to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that though. I listen to my podcast at like 1.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I especially books. I like the voice actors. I mean, they add to an audiobook, and you don't want to like just completely destroy their performance. You want to be able to hear the nuances that they bring to a performance. So.
We have a lot of nuances to our performance here, I think.
Yeah, we do. Yes. We have your laugh.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
We have the impressions that you do.
Yeah, all those impressions I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta preserve the integrity of those impressions.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's been this episode, 28th episode. Like Diane said, click all the buttons, like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, click the notification bell, all the buttons, every button you can see. Click
all the buttons, all the buttons.
Well, we'll see you next week on Double Feature Movie Club. Bye.
Bye.